Chris, Lee and Blake Lovell here talking SEC basketball. Blake, we really look forward to the slate of Wednesday night's games, and man, they delivered, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, we said, this was one of the better ones, you thought, depending on, which teams showed up, and that was the teams that played against some of these, A&M was one we weren't really sure about. How does this thing play out with them? And, well, we'll talk about that in a second. Arkansas and LSU was as advertised. I think Auburn and Mississippi State, if you didn't watch the game, you're probably thinking, wait a second, how does the team win by 13 in overtime? Well, still, it was a very good game. And, so it was these were three good ones, although one team in particular is not going to feel too good about their performance. But
the only disappointment I had is, I'm watching both games at once, right? I've got them on both TVs, but you can only do audio on one, and that kind of dictates that you followed a little bit more. I wanted Auburn to get a little more separation, or somebody to get some separation and win it in overtime, because I'm keeping an eye on LSU and Arkansas, and that just is crazy. And I'm like, I want to put my attention, more on one than the other. I want one to resolve and be able to maybe watch the last 10 minutes of the other. But Mississippi State just didn't let that happen. And State, man, you talk about regrets. They get the ball with, 45, 50 seconds left. They've got a chance to go 2 for 1. Iverson Molinar just dribbles away aimlessly before initiating the offense. I mean, don't you at least give it a shot? See if you get a good look in the first 10 or 15 seconds to leave yourself some. Look, if it's not there, I'm not a believer in forcing up a shot to get that extra possession, although maybe it's not the worst idea. But, at least see what's there. But just to make the decision, we're gonna play the clock out, and Auburn's going to get a shot, and we're going to get a shot. I don't know. I don't know what these coaches think sometimes.
Well, it's why they get paid the big bucks, and we're sitting here doing YouTube videos.
Well, it's also why they get fired. But anyway.
Well, that is true. I don't. I mean, it's just there are a lot of those things that when I watch an SEC game, sometimes I wonder about. I'm sure Auburn probably wasn't too thrilled with its final shot in regulation by any means. Those are the kind of things that I think it's just I don't know either. I know it's kind of easy for us sometimes to look at situations like that and wonder, but what I do know is, Auburn was almost it was almost a discussion again. And I've said I think the whole Auburn on the road storyline has been a bit overblown, and I think people still try to pick us apart for talking about it. But I think we talk about it.
But it's a storyline. I mean, yeah, we go into it a little deeper. Yeah.
My point is we talk about it in a different context. Like our context of it is a bit different than just looking at it on the surface and saying, well, they've lost road games, right? It's, as we've said, it's in relation and comparison to what they do at home, and it is not unlike the other SEC teams that, like I mentioned, I mean, I keep bringing up the stat. I need to update the stat now because I'm not sure what it is at this point, but it's
something in one.
It's something in one, yeah, but it's like, the top teams are still winning at home. And so anytime you can go on the road and get a win, even outside of, the top 4, even if you're not playing one of the top 4 teams, it's a victory. Like it's something that, I mean, once again, it's just 60-something% of SEC teams have won at home this season, or whatever the number is, 60% of the games. So I think you got to give Auburn credit for that. Yes, we could talk about missed opportunities and disappointments from Mississippi State. I mean, there's too many to list at this point in terms of, just this team in particular, and knowing that a win against Auburn may put you back in the conversation in the NCAA tournament, and it goes to overtime. I mean, really, you're up. Oh man, what was it? Like
5 or 6.
I don't remember, but it's somewhere in there. You're up 5 or something like that, 6. I don't. Someone will point it out to us, but it all runs together sometimes. That's why I say when we do these videos, like I'm thinking. I know. I just
Blake,
watched
it was
game.
5 at the 7:20 mark. So there you go.
I just watched this game 12 hours ago, but I can't remember every single thing that happened. Because it's like you are watching 3 different games at times, and so yeah, it's a missed opportunity for Mississippi State, but I think you got to give Auburn credit for making the plays that they made them in overtime, and we always just once again, I think it's Jabari Smith is a fantastic player, and I'm not saying anything no one doesn't already know, and I think it's just for Auburn when you have a guy like that, you're always going to have a chance to win, and I think that's why even for people who are going to be hesitant on them, which once again to me they're 26-4. I find it hard to believe that I'm just going to all of a sudden be that disappointed in a team that is 26-4, that even if they have again struggled on the road at times, I just don't know how I'm supposed to look up and say, well, time to start hitting the panic button on Auburn. They're 26-4, man. I mean, it's just like I think it's one of those things, and I get it. We have to try to find things to pick apart, and yes, we've talked about the guard play and the shot selection and that kind of stuff, but still, I mean, I think we got to remember how talented this team is, and that they do have an absolute superstar that can, basically take over the game at any time in Jabari Smith, and they've got a guy like Walker Kessler that there's no one else out there like him. And then when their guards do play to their potential, they are really, really good. So that to me was, huge win for Auburn. Obviously now they'll at least share the regular season title. We know how I feel about the co-champions thing, but still that gives you that. And I put the stat out real quickly here on Twitter last night. I got to find my own stat. It is it's Auburn's won. So now it's up to they've won 25 or more games in 4 of the past 5 seasons, which now includes 2 regular season titles and that Final Four appearance. Prior to the Bruce Pearl era, they had just 1 25-plus win season and 2 titles since 1932. So just think about that for a second. It's pretty impressive.
A couple more things before we get into more game stuff. Winning in Starkville's not easy. Auburn's the 3rd team to do that, the other 2 being Minnesota and Tennessee this year. The other thing, I think I saw something I've never seen, and this goes to the Mississippi State just shooting itself in the foot. Have you ever seen a guy get a 10-second violation unguarded? Unintentionally?
Yes.
Have you? Okay.
I have. I just, and if there was a game this season, I don't remember who it was, but it's funny you mentioned that because as soon as I saw it last night, I'm thinking, I remember seeing that with some game, but it's happened before.
Yeah.
But yes, no, I get your point. It's very, it's not something you want to see at any point in the
under
game.
Under 2 minutes left. I don't know.
I can't. For anyone like you guys are watching this, you're seeing both of us, but I can't see Chris today in our recording. So like I can't, which you have your recording, but everyone else can see you, but I can't see you on my side. So like I like to see your reactions.
Now you can see me.
Oh, now I can see you.
Okay, sorry. And now the video got blurry, but anyway.
That's okay. My stand-up routine is going to get a little bit better now because
I look better blurry,
and so no, you can't have that happen at any point. And to me, that's just another one. If you're Mississippi State, you're like, how does this happen? It's. At least the crowd was better. I knocked the crowd against Vanderbilt.
Hey, the crowd was really good, although there was a lot of orange in that building. That's a 4-hour. I looked it up. That's a 4-hour and 10-minute drive from Auburn. So there was a lot of Auburn in that building.
That's not a lot of time. I mean, 4 hours. Come on. That's for the SEC champion. It's not a bad drive. So
yeah. I know we're kind of scattering around here, but the Walker Kessler shoulder thing to me, he comes out wearing some kind of a sleeve or whatever. There were some people on Twitter commenting about it. He wasn't as active. He had 4 shots. He just wasn't active in the offense at all. That was totally out of the blue. I don't know what the issue was. It might have been addressed post-game, by which point I was watching Arkansas and or going to sleep, but any concern here?
I'm like Bill Belichick, man. I don't have any specifics on injuries.
You are a lot like Bill Belichick. I've noticed this about
I'm not giving you any insight. I have no idea. We're on to Cincinnati. That's a line, right? Like we're, I don't know. It's easy for us to speculate, and certainly it's easy to speculate on Twitter, the land of speculation. But I have no idea. As I told you before we started recording, I mean, if it's anything significant, I don't think Bruce Pearl puts him out there. Again, we're thinking ahead, and you're thinking tournaments and importance, and obviously that's a huge game last night. But I just think if it's anything significant, I don't think he's playing. So
You're also a lot like Kenny Loggins. You're
yes,
also a lot like Barry Gibb.
Eric
So we're
Haslam,
told.
are the chimp on Twitter. A lot of people, and if anyone's watching this, they probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But there will be a select few that understand what we're talking about with that. So,
If you had to embrace one, which is it going to be?
well, that's a tough question. We'll do that. Maybe that's part of the mailbag.
It could
So
be
I'll see if one of those guys can submit that as a mailbag question. So,
Top Gun or Disco.
Top Gun.
Okay, well, I think you just answered your own question.
There you go.
Man, Jabari Smith. Guy was unbelievable. There's no way Auburn wins that game without him.
Yeah, he's not bad.
He's okay.
He's pretty good. I mean, that's what I said. We had that discussion the other day, and I think some people took your comment wrong about Walker Kessler on the offense, and it was something about, I don't remember what you said exactly, but they just didn't get him involved enough in the offense, and I think it was, you were talking about the efficiency numbers. And
Yeah, I mean, he's got an effective field goal percentage probably better than anybody in the league. So if he gets a shot, he's 65% likely to hit it or whatever he is. But
right, and my point was, you're still going to Jabari Smith, and we were talking about the efficiency and some of those things, but yes, I mean, that's what I keep going back to, is we can talk about these flaws. Excuse me, I don't think flaws is the right word. Some people have said it, but it's like, if you want to pick apart Auburn, I still look at a team that can win a national championship because they have a player like Jabari Smith. And yes, you got to have help around him and those kind of things, and certainly they do. But it's like, when you have a guy like that can sort of will you to a victory sometimes, when you find yourself struggling, those kind of things, it's invaluable. And I think that's where, if Auburn makes this deep run, let's say they get back to the Final Four, I mean, it's just, to me, it's going to be because they have a guy like that on the floor that is going to be able, in big moments, to make big plays, and that's what you want out of your superstar players. And so, I think that he is just, he is on another level, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. So,
do we want to talk about Wendell Green doing Wendell Green things, or do we want to just move on?
I don't think so. I mean, it's like, I'm just saying, like, it's.
They're in the crosshairs. I get it. Yeah.
Auburn's guard play is what it is. Like, I mean, I don't think this is anything that's like a new revelation. You know what I mean? Like, I think we've known this all season. This was the question we had coming into the season, was about not just how it's all going to mesh together chemistry-wise, but like, what is the consistency level? Like, are they going to be able to, put them in a position? And I get it. Like, but I think this is the same discussion we've had even when they were winning, right? Like, people were trying to find, even when they're on this long winning streak, that's the one thing that people are still talking about. And yet, again, I understand, like, it is part of the thing is to try to find some of those things. And because we are trying to look ahead too. And I always say, like, it's hard to look ahead at this point in the season because you don't know who the teams are going to play, and you don't know your bracket. You don't know any of that stuff. So,
yeah.
But I mean, Wendell Green, Katie Johnson, I mean, we know what their style of play is now, and it's just I think sometimes you're gonna take the good with the bad. Like, that's just what it is. And I'm just not as overly concerned as some people seem to be about some of those things. Now, look, I may be proven wrong. Auburn bows out in the second round or something. Maybe I'm proven wrong and they just have a terrible game, and it's just, oh boy, like, there you go. Look back, and that was the reason. But I'm not there yet. So,
well, here's the law of how it works. Okay, the closer you are to the top, the more people look for things to go wrong.
Right.
And that's just, it's a compliment is what it is. The opposite of that is when you're just awful. People give you backhanded nice comments, and they don't really respect you. But
look, it's easier to predict that. Hey, here's why Auburn's not going to win the national championship. Well, yeah, because only one team's going to win it. So we could do that with everybody, right?
Right.
We can absolutely find something to
Yeah.
say, and you're probably, again, what are the chances of you being right? They're higher than you being wrong because, again, only one team's going to win the whole thing. So I get it, but I don't think if we're having the conversation about Auburn's guards at this point, I don't think we're saying anything that anyone who watches it doesn't already understand and know that this is just kind of is what it is at this point.
Well, while we're on the topic of Auburn's guards, how about the job they did on Iverson Molinar? I bet you 5 for 19 is the worst shooting night he's had all year. He has, I believe, more turnovers than assists. Yeah, that's correct. He had 5 and 3. And that's not easy, man. Iverson Molinar is debatably a top 5 player in this league.
No, I don't. Yeah, I think he's top 5, top 6. I don't think he's any further down than that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. And he plays all 40 minutes, and that's kind of. Or excuse me, he played all 40 minutes minus we got to count in the overtime. I forgot we got the extra 5 there, but it's. That probably wasn't one of his, better games, and I think we said that was how Mississippi State was going to have to win. If they just, you pretty much expected him to have a huge game, and that's not a knock on him. He still scored in double figures in every game he's played in this year. So yeah, it's just one of those games where it was made tougher by Auburn, and probably had some turnovers he'd like back and those kind of things. So. Yeah, still a fantastic player, but I think that he didn't have his best shooting night for sure.
The guy was really good last night. And it's a good line anytime, but considering who you're going up against, Toulouse Smith went 22 and 12. And I just thought looked great. Very athletic big man. Not a guy we talked about a lot, but a guy that's just been a really good player. Garrison Brooks, I didn't realize this. He went over 1,500 points and 1,000 rebounds for his career last night. Again, most of that at North Carolina. It's hard to
makes
do.
Sense. Yeah.
And missed some games, I guess. Unless he was a 5-year guy. I don't remember. I don't think he was. But that's quite an accomplishment. For State, I kind of realized this yesterday afternoon. I think if State wins this game, I'm looking at the metrics and maybe what they would have been on the strength of resume. State's squarely on the bubble if they can pull that thing out in regulation last night.
Well, not anymore. It's just that, and I'm not laughing about that. This is not a knock on Mississippi State fans. But it's just, you have to laugh sometimes because it's you think about all the missed opportunities, right? And
yeah.
Haven't we had this conversation with this program in recent years several times? It's just, I don't know. And I have nothing against Ben Howland. I like Ben Howland. I just think it's one of those where you just feel like they're just stuck in the middle. And we've said that before. And these are the kind of games that if you want to get out of that middle, you have to win, especially given the setup, right? You got a lead second half, got a lead late in the game. Goes to overtime in your building. Those are all positive scenarios, and yet you still just can't find a way to win. So it's got to be frustrating. So yeah, any hopes they had of being on the bubble, a win over A&M isn't going to do anything for you. So
Ben Howland and Frank Martin, coaching twins, separated at birth.
Is that right?
I don't know. They're always in the middle. We made that comment about Carolina yesterday.
Carolina's not always in the middle. Carolina is always on the extremes. They are either, really, really rough, it seems sometimes, that they kind of fall down there, I don't know, right above the bottom of the pack, or they just jump out of nowhere and become fifth or something.
When's Carolina? Okay, maybe it's been more recent than I thought. When was the last time either of those teams played the first day of the SEC tournament? This is my point.
I don't know. You're asking. I don't remember. Again, I don't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday.
Andy Kennedy would have been in that group too, where he's still in the league.
By the way, I think it was oatmeal. So there you go.
We're all better for knowing that.
You're welcome.
Anything else on this one?
No.
Okay, LSU Arkansas. That was a slugfest.
Did they play last night?
They did play.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's what you expected from that game, to be honest with you.
You just kind of knew Arkansas was going to find a way. I tweeted this out last night. Like, Arkansas in that building could be down 10 points to the NBA All-Stars with a minute left. They'd find a way.
They found a way.
Like, when J.D. Note gets fouled and has 2 shots, like, odds are like 100% he's going to make them both at that point. You just know it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. I just said, I mean, this is – what else do you say about this team? They just refuse to lose, right? Like, that's it. And yeah, you can probably give LSU an assist on some of that stuff. They didn't exactly, probably make the plays they wanted to make down the stretch. But, I mean, Arkansas, man, they just find ways to win. And I said it. I was thinking about this earlier. And somebody will probably call me out on this. But I am willing to say this because I'm doing this off the top of my head. Please remember that right now because I haven't looked back, especially at this. But if you really think about it, given that this is probably the best the SEC's been in a long time, would we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Like you could arguably say this is maybe the best conference.
I want to ask, the last time the SEC was this good, the 2 time periods that come to me would be when Florida was going back-to-back natties, or like go back to the mid-'90s when Kentucky and Arkansas really both had it going. I mean, like even more than they do right now. And you had some other good teams around the league. My memory fades on who else was. Florida was pretty good at the time. I think Tennessee was down around then, but I mean, it's in that conversation, right?
Here is what I was thinking when I was going to say this, and I'm looking back real quick to make sure I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth here. All right, I'm not going to go as strongly as I was going to because I'm looking back like, well, I got to look back at this. And I think you could say right now that what Arkansas has done over the past, month and a half or so now?
Yeah.
Is as impressive. I mean, I don't want to say as impressive. It's one of the most impressive runs for any team in SEC play that I've seen. Maybe since Kentucky's undefeated, right? Like that was 2000. What was that? 2015.
Yeah, I think Florida's unbeaten like a year or two before that.
Yeah, but was that as impressive because I don't think the league
wasn't as good, right?
So that is my point in relation to the strength of the league. Because, yeah, that Florida went 18-0. I'm just making sure
we cover all our bases. But
Florida went 18-0 in 2014. The SEC got 3 teams in the NCAA tournament. They're going to get probably 6 or 7 in this year. And again, it's not that Arkansas has gone unbeaten, but I think you have to put the schedule, right? Like that matters. This is a gauntlet. We talked about it. Like, I mean, they've beaten Auburn, they've beaten Tennessee, they beat Kentucky, they beat LSU. If they were to beat Tennessee on Saturday, it's pretty impressive, but I think there's another one. I was like, what else would fit into that category of like most impressive feats we've seen in the SEC and since maybe that Kentucky thing. You know what I just thought about? I'm like, play Alabama last year.
Yeah.
Because like that's what we have to remember with Alabama last year is, I mean, they finished 16-2, and I know like Kentucky and Auburn were down, of course, but still that run they went on
so consistent.
Basically, to start the season, they were 9-0 in SEC play, and they logged some good wins in there. But again, we could have this conversation for an hour, and we've already spent a lot of time running around here. But I think it's just so impressive. That's my point here, and I know it took a long way to get there, but it's just, man, they beat another good team here, and it's just like, I don't know. This is. I'm still of the belief that Arkansas has played better than any SEC team over the past month plus now.
Yeah. I don't think there's much debate.
No, I don't think so either. But it comes back to what we talked about not long ago when we started having those conversations about them turning the corner. We said what? I said, hey, Muss is he's found his guys and he's just going to put them out there, and by God, if they have to play 35, 38 minutes, let them roll, right? That's what they did last night. I mean, Note, Amude, Tony all played 39 minutes each. Jalen Williams plays 34. Davis plays 31. And then, you get Trey Wade coming in for 9, Johnson 6, and Likes 4.
Wade's minutes have gone way down, by the way.
Whose?
Trey Wade.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just one of those. That to me is like the must thing, right? It's just
did it last year.
He finds his guys, he puts them in there, and that is that. And he's gonna let those guys go win the game, and they did. So I think that's just as important as anything. And Mude has a big game there, and Jalen Williams, once again, double. I mean, this guy. It's funny because ever since we had that conversation about like the SEC player rankings, and I said, and remember, for anyone, like that was a while back. So like this was probably right as Arkansas was starting to make their run, I think. And I'm thinking, man, I think Jalen Williams probably needs to be higher up there somewhere. And now we look up and it's like this guy has been the definition of consistency and impact over the past, since January the 12th, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, I don't need to say any more about Jalen Williams. Everybody knows how I feel about this kid. But, I mean, everyone else, I thought this was one that if you're LSU, you're frustrated.
If you're LSU, but I don't feel any worse about LSU leaving this game. I mean, in fact, I probably feel a little better.
Well, they had nothing to lose. Yeah,
they had nothing to lose, but I mean, they led most of the game.
Yeah.
A break goes the other way down the end, and they're walking out with a huge road win.
Right.
I thought LSU looked great.
Well, that's the thing is like we talked about this, I guess yesterday or something, but I'm back on the LSU bandwagon just because. I mean, I still look at how they play defense, right, and it's hard to ignore that they can be really good on that side of the floor, and it's just their offense leaves a lot to be desired sometimes. I mean, look at this game too; they have 22 offensive rebounds. It's just that they got a lot of length, very athletic, and they've got some playmakers, and we've said that. I mean, really, like, look, this is one of those games that proved that LSU, I think, can. This is why they're dangerous. It's because when their big three, which we know is Tari Eason, Darius Days, and Xavier Pinson, when those three guys are on offensively,
which they were.
Although
Pinson 5 of 21 from the field, that maybe that might stretch the definition of on, but
yeah, but I think it's still like you got something out of him, right? And right. I think that's kind of what we mean though. But like even if he makes a couple of those extra shots, right, like that's the difference. And so, yeah, I think maybe saying he was completely on is exaggerating it a bit, but at least when you can get these guys scoring, in any form of like just get these guys in double figures, you're going to have a chance because I do think they are going to put themselves in a position defensively to really be in a good spot. But still, I it's kind of like the Mississippi State thing where down the stretch there, like I'm watching this game and thinking, man, LSU's about to win this, and I thought the same about Mississippi State, and it just didn't happen, and it's gotta be frustrating because LSU's up 4 with minute 40 to go, something like that. Yeah, and they can't find a way to win it. Has that not been a theme we talked about in some of these games recently? Teams that are up like 4 or 5 with a minute left and they wind up losing.
You don't want to lead in the final 2 minutes in this league anymore, it seems.
No, it seems like that's exactly right. Like it seems that way because teams are finding hard to hold on to that. So yeah, it's I mean really, like think about it. Like this game, Mississippi State, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Florida. There's more we can think of, but I mean it's just So big win for Arkansas, and oh boy, sets up a fun Saturday.
Yes, it does.
Because you're really starting to hesitate. You're like, all right, Kentucky took care of business, Tennessee took care of business, but then we knew it was going to be a bigger challenge for these two teams, Arkansas and Auburn, to see if the setup was going to be there, but it is, and now we get our. I don't want to say like a dream scenario, but it's like, it's a fun setup for Saturday. So.
Well, we've gone 30 minutes, and we hadn't mentioned a guy who absolutely deserves to get mentioned. Stanley Umude.
I mentioned him a minute
Oh,
ago.
did okay. Well, we didn't talk about him a lot. I mean,
We didn't talk about him a lot. You're
I
right.
called him their wild card a couple weeks ago, and what I meant by that is like that Note is your guy. He's your scorer. You know that Jalen Williams is your fall out of bed and get a double guy. But Umude's the guy. Like, and again, he had 23 points last night and 8 of 16 from the field. That's pretty good. 3 of those were threes, so he shot really well. Cans all his free throws, and also, as we've said, does a lot of other things. But you look at the last 5 or 6 games in reverse: points 23, 13, 11, 5, 23, 19. And remember, at South Dakota, he just was a stat sheet stuffer there. Just a really good player. I don't remember if he was player of the year in that league. I think he was. But he's the guy that, like, Note was not on last night. 3 of 12 from the field. LSU really locked him down in a lot of ways. And that's what I mean is, like, he's the guy that when you need him to be your guy can step up and be the guy. And I think that's another thing. As much attention as Jalen Williams has gotten, he's really taken center stage at times for them when they really needed it.
Yeah, no, I mean he's important too, and that's what we say when you have. I mean, because that's kind of goes back to our initial conversation. You know what you're getting from Arkansas at this point. You know who's going to be on the floor. It's not like there's a lot of mystery there. You know who's going to be out there for 30 or more minutes each game, and it's going to be the ones we just talked about. And he is, like, he's a big part of that, and I thought he was going to be such a big part of the, coming into the season too, because, he does have that experience, right? It is someone that I know it's South Dakota, but he's still got a lot of playing time in college basketball. And I thought that, how he meshed with everything was going to be a big part of them potentially having the success they've had. And look, his minutes have gone up, right? And that's been a big part of it, is because he has proven to be someone that kind of on any given night, he could have one of those South Dakota-esque games where he just goes off, and has a big scoring night. And I think that I always say that when you're a guy like that, who I know we talk about, you never know when a player like transfers up, but when you've proven,
it took him a bit.
Yeah, but I think my point is, when you've proven you can score 30 plus points at any sort of level that is a Division I level, I think you're going to be able to. You've got scoring ability. I think that's kind of the thing, is like, know that even if you're transferring up, no, you're not going to average 25 a game in the SEC or anything, but you know how to score. And I think that's where, like, for him, he's not going to have those, he's not going to score 40 and 30 and back-to-back and those kind of things maybe that he did at South Dakota sometimes, but he's got that potential. I mean, he had 31 against Georgia. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. He's had some of those games that really just, he can be kind of that guy. And you said it, like that X factor type of player. So I just love the way the things have come together for Arkansas. It's so impressive. And that's why I mentioned earlier, just this run they're going on is, with this schedule, is just remarkable. And we'll see if that, on Saturday, if they win another one. I mean, I just don't. If they, which we'll have our predictions video coming soon, this may be our biggest video ever. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, we're setting up for just an incredible Saturday. But
storylines all over the place on Saturday.
Yeah, and I mean, if they win that one on Saturday, like, it's just sort of, you're gonna go into the SEC tournament looking at this and saying, who's gonna beat them, right? Like, because it's just. That's kind of how I feel right now. I'm already thinking ahead. I'm like, oh, who am I going to pick in this game? Because, man, Arkansas just they don't lose, and Tennessee doesn't lose at home. But at least I got a little time to figure that out. So.
Well, here's another guy we don't talk about enough, Aldis Toney, who was really good at Pitt, for whatever that's worth. And by the way, Umude, the Summit's not a bad league either, just so people know. But efficiency, man, I'm trying to pull up his numbers. He is shooting from the field. I think he's got a 61% true shooting percentage, which is like your field goal efficiency combined with what you do from the foul line, which is like, that's probably the best metric of how good you are with scoring. He's got a 54% effective field goal mark, which is terrific. That's like your fourth scorer. And he got 18 last night. and he gets them efficiently all the time. I mean, you talk about guys in roles, where they are with their 3 and 4 guys. Just again, Note and Williams have gotten so much attention. I feel like those two, and especially Tony, because we've talked about Amude more lately, just they kind of get lost in the shuffle. He's been really good for them.
Yeah, and it goes beyond. I mean, he's a great defender. I mean, it goes beyond offense, I think, with him, and it's just, yeah. I mean, all you need is 5, right? I mean, that's the name of the game. You just need 5 out there. And
my 5 are on the floor.
To me, is Arkansas's found their 5, and like I said, they're rolling with them. And I mean, we know it's beyond that, but like we said, those other guys, even small amount of minutes, are giving you something. Because you need those guys to come in and play a few minutes. You can't just have everyone play 40 minutes. It's really hard to do in the SEC. But the Must Bus is testing that theory, because, like I said, you got 3 guys last night that plays 39, and basically those top 5 guys are all playing over 30. So, yeah. So it's Must Bus keeps rolling.
I totally botched that line, didn't I?
Which one?
I think it's my team is on the floor.
Is that the Hoosiers?
Yeah, that's when that's when he had his star player. He kept him on the bench and he played 4.
That's right.
Shame on me. I should know better.
Attitude issues, man. You can't have an attitude, or Gene Hackman's not going to play you.
Who would do that, wouldn't he?
Maybe. Must Bus doesn't care, man. Must Bus is
he can win with Williams,
right
Amude, Note, and Tony, and just go 4 on 5.
It's right now. It is gassed up and en route to Knoxville, Tennessee, and maybe stock for some snacks, some corn nuts, maybe a zero bar. I don't know. Like, it's just. I mean, Must Bus is rolling.
Where is this coming from?
I'm
corn
just saying,
nuts and
man,
a zero bar.
I think you just, at this point, here's what I think you do.
I've had neither of those in a long time.
Me either. It's been years, but those are just the first things I thought of. So maybe I've been really subconsciously craving them for years now. But
do they make zero bars anymore?
I hope so, because now after I'm talking about it, I'm gonna go get one. Someone will tell us if they do. But that used to be my favorite. But no, here's what I think you do. You put everyone on the Must Bus at this point. Just leave them on there until the season's over, because, again, that's the place to be right now. So put them on there and just take this place just take it from place to place. Go to Knoxville, go to Tampa, go to wherever they play in the NCAA tournament, and just keep that thing gassed up.
What else is on the Must Bus?
Well, I mean, you could have a TV.
You could have movies. You could have all kinds of. I bet you don't have shirts.
I
think shirts are optional on the Must Bus.
Some sort of sanitary laws that you gotta have some sort of sanitary. I don't know, but yeah, I'm curious. So
Arkansas fans can tell us. What movies are you watching on the Must Bus?
Well, that's a good question. Hoosiers, I guess. We've already brought that one
Hoosiers?
up, so that's one. Yeah, I don't know.
Happy Gilmore?
Well, that's another one I would put on there, but the history of the Zero Bar. I assume there's a documentary out there about that, maybe. All right.
I bet that's riveting.
Let me just tell you right now, I'm looking up Zero Bars, if they're still made. Yeah, it looks like they're still introduced.
Okay.
So, well, that veered off course, unlike the Must Bus.
The Must Bus is not veering off course. It's been on course for 2 months.
Here's my takeaways from that game to sum it up. Arkansas is really good. I still think LSU is really good. And I think that, once again, like, it's just this team just refuses to lose these kind of games. And to me, that's the most impressive thing. So
I'm still wondering where you pulled Zero Bars.
I must be hungry. That is really, and now that it is on a tab on my computer, apparently you can buy them online, and I'm looking at the king size here and getting a little antsy. So let's speed this thing up.
When's your birthday?
I can't tell people that. They're gonna have all my information, and
you might get avalanched with Zero Bars from the audience, though. I mean, there's upside here.
That is true. There's a 6-pack right now on HersheyLand.com/0 for anyone who would like to purchase one. So.
All right. Well, you know who did veer off course again last night?
Oh, my. Yeah. I mean, let me just say this. Did that shock anyone?
I mean, it shouldn't. It's been the running talking point all year. You know, I think the thing that's lost in that is A&M. Even when A&M was losing, I still thought A&M looked like a pretty good team.
It's exactly what we said in the preview. If you
And
don't remember, I said,
yeah,
look, they have been close in almost in the majority of the games they played in. It's been close.
well, let me throw another
what we
thing.
said about this game.
A&M has sneakily gotten in that deep bubble conversation. I think I'm waiting for some computer stuff to update this morning, but I mean A&M has now beaten Arkansas, Alabama on the road, Notre Dame on a neutral site in Florida. The computer metrics aren't great, but I think once they update, I don't think they'll be disqualifying. I mean, look, once you get to the edge of the bubble, a big win or two means a lot because by definition, the bubble is not full of teams that have just got these resumes of, crazy accomplishment, maybe Rutgers aside, which that's another. Rutgers has got one of the weirdest resumes I've ever seen, but we'll save that for another day, or maybe we won't. But
Alabama does too now, right?
Yeah, but Alabama could lose two more, and they're still going to be in as probably a 7. But yes,
still a weird resume when you think about it as a whole.
But I mean, A&M, and we'll talk about this later. A&M is, man, a win Saturday, and that starts to get interesting. Like we hadn't even talked about them as a potential bubble team, and they beat Alabama last night. I'm like, I better look this up, and I'd forgotten they'd beaten Notre Dame. The Arkansas win should carry a ton of weight right now. And they're talent. Like if you watched them on the right day, if the eye test is a thing, I mean I think on the right day they can pass that.
Yeah, we'll see with them. I'm hesitant, but I do.
I think. Let me be clear. I think it's a long shot. I think it's a lot more unlikely than likely. But that's the thing. We try to keep our eye on this stuff. Yeah. Maybe before everybody else is talking about it. And last night I started thinking, that crazier things have happened than for them to make the NCAA tournament without winning the whole thing next week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm with you. Good wins matter. We always say that, right? And so, look, I'm not shocked by this and I don't think anyone should be shocked by this if you watched Alabama play this season. The two things we've always talked about the entire season, what has held them back, there are two things. Well, maybe three, but two in particular: defense and turnovers, and those were on full display here. Turnover 19 times, and I don't remember who's on the call, but as whatever, I don't remember who it was. Was it Mike Morgan maybe? Said some of these turnovers they're not forced. It's just some turnovers are just turnovers, and you just can't have those. And we said A&M is one of the better teams nationally in forcing turnovers.
They're elite at it, yeah.
But it's not like every one Alabama had was forced, and I think that's the issue. And look, you also have to give credit to Quentin Jackson, I think, because it's like the guy just went off. He hit some tough shots.
That's 2 or 3 in a row now, isn't it? I mean, he's having a pretty nice close to the season.
Yeah, I mean, he scored in double figures in every game since January 19th. So, yeah, I mean, he was the guy coming into the season. We said like as he goes, they'll probably go even with all the newcomers because he's still the most proven kind of guy they have on the roster. So. He had a great game, and again, I don't think we should take anything away from him just making some tough shots, and he made shots, and that's all that matters. So yeah, I think you give him a lot of credit. Henry Coleman played really well in this one too. Thought he was impressive, double. Radford of course had his points. I mean, he hit some shots, some big shots as well. So this is what you get, man, with Alabama. Just when you think it's, it's just kind of. You remember what I texted you? I said, you never know with Alabama against average teams.
Yep.
You know what you're going to get from Alabama against the good ones, but you don't know against average teams. You just don't know. And, I mean, really, like, let's go back to the South Carolina game. What did we talk about? We said Alabama at one point is up 23, and then all of a sudden, just like that, it's a 17-point swing, and it's back to 6, right? And those are the kind of things that there are just too many swings with this team right now. And I'm sure it's frustrating for Nate Oates. I know it's frustrating for the fans, but there's no rhyme or reason, it seems, throughout a 40-minute game against these kind of, and I'm not even, because really, let's look at the good teams they play, right? Like they have been there against everyone. Am I wrong? Except the Auburn one on the road. I mean, where they just got,
I don't remember them getting blown out. I mean, here's what makes it
kinda got
puzzling,
blown
right?
out,
Like
Auburn. Yeah.
defense is the issue, and turnovers, and maybe sometimes those are fatigue issues. Man, Alabama's deep. Like, these are two of the deeper teams in the league that played last night, and I want to circle back on that with A&M, but I don't know. That just tells me it's an effort thing, an attention thing. And there was some kind of belief that, like, a month ago, like, what was the game that they won? And Oates was talking after the game, like, okay, I've finally gotten through these guys. And we like clarity. Clarity may be an illusion, but we like it because it makes the world easier to explain.
I assume it was Baylor is my guess, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
No, I think it was.
That was
might
after
have
they
been,
lost to Georgia.
Yeah, maybe it was, but it seemed later than that. It seemed like it might have even been when they beat a middling team, because that's the issue. But I don't know. I kind of thought we put this to bed a while back, but apparently not.
Like that, I did not.
No,
like,
you've never gotten off that.
No, like I still think this is the thing when you watch them play. Like I don't think anything's changed. And again, you can put that blame on someone if you want. Like I haven't seen any significant change with this team. And so I think that's the frustrating part is they are always, that little stretch away from just doing what they did last night. And that's what it's I want to make sure this is understood. I don't think we should be taking anything away from Texas A&M here. I think they're the reason they won the game. I don't think Alabama's the reason. I think it was Texas A&M. Again, I think Quentin Jackson, great game. Those other guys played really well. They were the ones that put themselves in a position to win a game the way they did. But I still think you can't ignore the Alabama side of it because we know they're the team that, came in with higher expectations and
they're at home.
Has been disappointing, and they're at home. Yeah. And so it's just you never know what you're going to get. And we'll talk more about that with them leading into Saturday's game. But yeah, I just here I guess is the wrap up question. Does our opinion of Alabama really change after last night? For me, it doesn't, because I already had the opinion that this is what they are, and it's frustrating, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But just because they get beat at home by 16 does not change my opinion about them. I said it. They can still be a team that, if they want to, they can beat anybody. And I know that sounds silly, but also, if they are not playing defense and they have some of these turnovers that they have, they can get blown out of the gym by anyone as well. And
I almost think the best thing for them would to get knocked down about the 7 line.
We're going to talk about the bracket. I was just thinking about this in my head. Something we have to consider. Actually, I'm gonna save this for the next video. There's a tease because it's pretty good. I'm gonna save it for the next video.
Well, A&M last night played 9 guys played double-digit minutes, and Andre Gordon, who I think usually plays double-digit minutes, played 9. That's a team that, like, as we go into the SEC tournament, and we talked about, okay, A&M's got a game. They host Mississippi State. I think if they win that game, they're going to start appearing on some bubbles, and then it becomes, can they bag a couple of nice wins in Tampa? I think that bench sets them up to do that, Blake.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it's one where we just had a lot of unknowns about A&M because they had so many new players.
Yeah,
right?
and maybe this is the quintessential team that had a bunch of parts and it just took a while to gel. Maybe that'll be the story when their season's done. Maybe this is much about nothing, but it's interesting.
Well, I wrote the A&M preview for Blue Ribbon this year, and I talked to Devin Johnson, their assistant coach, and I do remember the one thing he told me was, look, we think we got a lot of pieces here. We don't necessarily know how they're going to fit together yet because again, that's always a guessing game, right? But he also said, we got Quentin Jackson too. And I'm like, yeah, like that's a big part of it. And I think last night we saw that, to where this is a guy that's, been in the league now for 3 years. And if he plays this potential, there's no doubt this is the best season he's had there. And I think he's just, to me, he's progressively gotten better each year. And for him to make the jump he's made, that's been important. And it's kind of helped, everything sort of come together for them. Even like we said, even if they had this long losing streak, and I know that's been talked about, how rare it is for a team to win 8 in a row and lose 8 in a row in the same season. But, it's just they're still a good team when they play like that. And we'll see kind of how things finish up here. But like you said, crazier things have happened if they were to beat Mississippi State and, let's say, put themselves in a position to beat a couple NCAA tournament caliber teams in the SEC tournament. So,
parting thoughts.
Oh boy, our next video is gonna be wild because we got our predictions.
We're gonna break down what we think the bracket is gonna look like in the SEC tournament based on our predictions.
We gotta figure out a way to keep this under an hour. Well, I think we'll figure it out, but it's gonna be a pretty in-depth video. So I think this will be one of our better ones yet, because there is so much to talk about leading into Saturday's games. And just as a note, we are going to do the East versus West All-Star teams. I know some of you guys had mentioned that in the comments. We're going to do that. We're going to wait till after the regular season finishes. So we'll do that after Saturday. I'm not sure exactly what day it'll be yet, but we'll do that. We'll also have our awards coming up at some point after Saturday. Like I said, maybe Sunday, maybe Monday, but we'll do our awards, our picks for Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, all SEC teams, that kind of stuff. Oh man, Chris, this next week and a half is gonna be a lot of fun. So
I can't wait. I mean, we've got so many. The problem is having the time to do all the things we want to do, and I'm still trying to follow baseball too, which is very problematic because there's a lot of interesting basketball to watch.
Yeah.
So
it's it's gonna be fun. So yes. Hit that subscribe button. We're almost there.
Give it a little tap.
We are almost there. We are almost to 1,000, which is
remarkable. Get us to 1,000. A little tappy tap.
Yeah, and also, our predictions for this next one's going to be what a slate this is on Saturday. We'll get to it.
Grab your 0 bars. All right, we're done. We'll see you again with predictions later today.